Hi, and welcome to Safe Space. I'm your host, the artistic psychologist. This podcast aims to end the stigma surrounding mental health, one conversation at a time. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome to another episode in the series on grief and grieving during a pandemic. Today I have Nakhumicha on the show. Hi, Nakhumicha.
Hi, Pauline.
How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
How you feeling?
I'm fine. I don't know how this will go, but I'm fine.
Okay then.
Yes.
Nakhumicha is my cousin, my big sister actually, and yeah, I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this with me.
Asante.
So, Ethel lost her grandfather not too long ago, and she'll be letting us know just how that has been for her. Could you tell us a little bit about your grandfather? How would you describe him?
My grandfather was called Jacob Ndicho Muchele. He died at 91 years old. So by all standards, he had lived his life. I remember him as a strong man, a strong old man. For as long as I can remember, he only had, his right leg got amputated at some point, I think way before I was born. So he's a hulk of a man. When I was young, he would actually hop on his one leg. He completely refused to walk, to use a walking stick or a wheelchair or crutches until he got very old and he couldn't move. I remember he even used to dig. And yes.
With one leg?
Yes, with his one leg. He was just so full of life. And I also know that he was super proud of his eldest daughter. He had two daughters, and the eldest one happens to be my mother. Most times, he even used to say, "This is my son." Yeah, he was super proud of her. And anytime there was anything, he would always ask, "Have you informed her?" I think he empowered my mother into being part of the decision-making process in his home. And he would always defer to her. He would always listen to her. So even anytime things were going amiss, my mother's brothers and sisters would always call her because she was the only one that would talk sense to him. And he just loved life. He was always jocular. He was always making fun, always giving his grandchildren nicknames. He never used to call anyone by their names. He would call everyone by their nicknames. And his nicknames would be as a result of your mannerisms. If you're sly, he would just call you Sungura. Sungura ako wapi, nani amemwona. And I think he didn't have much education, but by the standards out there, he really tried, because he raised his children right. He took them to school. He even left them an inheritance. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my mother used to say for a quarter, because their home is in Tongaren. He actually bought 15 acres of land then, and all his sons are inheriting. I should also say he also gave his daughters land. Even before it became law or anything.
That's unique, yeah.
Yes, my mother actually has land back in his father's. Yeah, he said, "This is yours, this is your sister's."
Yeah.
And he also gave the son. So I think he was a progressive old man.
Yeah.
And he didn't do things because that's what people were doing. He just lived his life. Yeah, so I know about him from my own personal experience with him, but I also know about him from what our mom tells us about him and what other people around him were saying. So, like I said, he was a strong, healthy man until I think 5 years prior to his death. He had prostate cancer and it took quite a toll on him. He was strong, he was robust, he was just full of life. Then he started getting sick, and for an old man his age, also given our image of the man of the home and the way it is, sometimes it kind of got embarrassing for him. He had to walk around with a catheter for quite some time and a urine bag, and sometimes he would get infections. He would get too embarrassed to say. But my mother, being a nurse, sometimes would say, check on him. Like when they say he's not gone for short call for quite some time, he would say, please find out, hoping he's fine. Then, miraculously, he was able to, towards the end, pass urine normally. The catheter was removed, and I mean, he looked like he was beating it, and he was just fine. So then one evening, my mom calls me and tells me, your grandfather is sick. I've been told he's admitted. He's been taken to some dispensary in Naitiri. They're saying he's supposed to undergo surgery and blah, blah. So I asked, what is the problem? And my mother just said, I think. No, she actually didn't say I think. She told me your grandfather is dying. Call your brothers, mujipange. Mtakuwa na matanga. Just like that. And I was like, hey, mommy, you're not scared, you're not feeling anything. And she said, no, he's an old man, and I think he has decided to pack. So I asked her whether she wanted to go see him, and she completely refused. She said, I don't want to remember my father like that. Because I think she had been told he wasn't talking, he wasn't eating. Even when he was taken to hospital, he never said anything. Normally, he would ask for her. His nickname for her was Nabalala. I don't know. Nabalala, I think, means muvumilivu. Yeah, or the patient one. Something like that. He never asked for her. And my mother said, I'm not going to go. I don't want to remember my father like that. But she said, Jipangeni. It took about a week. When it seemed like there was no change, he was taken to a different hospital, to Webuye. Okay, I don't know that it's a referral hospital, but Webuye Hospital. And when they got there, I think he spent one night. Then the doctor that saw him the following day just asked them to take him back home. And he died, actually. He died the morning. And even when he died, actually, my cousin called me to tell me Kuka has died late in the night. It was around 10 or 11 p.m. I was seated with some friends of mine. I told them by then my grandfather has died. I tried calling my mother. She wasn't picking. I think my dad had come to Nairobi that time, so he was not there. I tried calling everyone I could get a hold of, because I knew my mother was really attached to her father. She really loved her father. I couldn't get her on phone. I even called her neighbor. I actually found her neighbor on phone. But she said, I'm also trying to raise her na hashiki simu yangu. So then my friend said, why don't we go home? We went home that night. I'm telling you, getting into that compound, we actually had to jump over the fence because the gate was locked. Nobody was picking. She just refused to pick calls. Okay, when we finally got in, that's what she told us. We jumped into the compound, and now getting into the house was another nightmare.
So that's funny for me because I know how that fence is bushy.
I know. And we actually jumped over it. We got in, and then she finally opens the door, and she said, yeah, I was told, but I decided I'm not going to speak on phone, so nilikuwa nimelala.
Wow.
And she's just seated there. I'm looking at her like, seriously? In fact, even after we left, my friends told me, your mother is in shock. Your mother is in shock. And she said, and then Mulale. That is an old man. He was 91 years old. He lived his life and blah, blah. I said, fine. For me, it is. But this is your father. You're not going to. And she said, I'm diabetic, I'm now going to start raising my blood pressure and so on. So I also have to think of my health. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to get emotional. But she told me, I had told you so. I have had a whole week to process this. I knew that my father was dying. And later, when I spoke to her about it, she explained it to me. My brother had gotten sick just before that episode. And during that time, Kuka asked for him. He asked, where is Emmanuel? And he was told Emmanuel is in Nairobi and he's sick. And he insisted, let me talk to him. So they called him and he spoke to him on phone. When he told him he was sick, he said, usikufe, mimi ndio nitakufa. Unaona. So I think that conversation plus the sickness for my mother, I think, just made her believe that he actually had decided that he was tired and he was just going.
Go.
Yeah. And yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You've given us a pretty good timeline of from when he was sick till when he passed away.
Yes.
Usually when somebody is ill, terminally ill most especially, many people tend to get into anticipatory grief. So you're grieving expecting that the person is going to pass away. Do you feel like you had gotten into that stage where you were anticipating his death and you had started grieving already when he was alive?
For me, not especially because, see, he had been on catheter for over 1 year, close to 2 years. Then miraculously he goes to hospital and we're told he's now able to pass urine properly, and so it's going to be removed. So there was this false sense of relief, false hope that actually he's getting better. And so even when he was taken to hospital and mom was saying, I know he's dying, I kept telling her, maybe he'll see you and he will want to get up. And she said, no, he's not. So probably in that week, I may have started without really embracing it, without acknowledging it, but at least it had already registered that he's actually going. Yeah. So it was not such a big shock. Even when he was moved to hospitals, again, she told me, these people they should just leave him at home because he has decided and he is going. She even told me, you see, organs start failing. He's not eating. He's not passing urine. He's not taking long call. He's not doing anything. He's just lying there. He is not talking. He doesn't want to live. So for her, it was like, it is a decision. He's the one who knows what he's feeling. And he has just decided, this is it. I'm not going to fight anymore. I'm not going to try to stay alive anymore. Let it just be.
Yeah. It's a funny thing. One of the guests I had previously, we were talking about how it's very interesting that just before people pass away, especially when they've been sick, it seems like they're getting better.
Yes.
So it's very confusing when eventually, you hear they've passed away. You're like, what? Things were actually looking up for the first time in a while. Then you hear they've passed away, and
Yes.
yeah, it can be really shocking, even if you are sort of expecting it because they've been sick for some time.
Yes. Yeah, it's still, I think we never expect that it will end in death. There's always that hope that something is going to happen.
Some miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're going to get better.
Yeah, maybe it's, I don't know, it's some hope we have, some kind of hope. Okay, you mentioned how your grandfather was like a very strong, robust man. Did you find yourself grieving him as you knew him when he now became a shadow of himself because he was sick? Did that throw you into some sort of grief?
Okay. See, his deterioration has taken time. It isn't that, probably, I don't know whether this makes sense, but it was because I know for a fact that my mother she tried to do everything. She tried to do everything that she possibly could for him, just to make his sickness journey, or the last days, if we may call it that. I'm not sure that she knew they were his last days, but she tried very hard to make it easy for him. Getting him what is it called, prosthesis or something. They first tried getting him
the leg.
Yeah, the leg. And he rejected it after some time. They got him one crutch, and he kept saying, Mimi sio kiwete, I don't need these things. But at the end, he had to actually even use a wheelchair because he was weak, he was old, and he could not move. So I still don't, I think, understand the saying that he lived his life, because clearly he was still alive. You see, he was still alive. But having to end it so helplessly, I don't know whether there is any good way of going anyway. Yeah, there's no good way. So the grieving is in the not knowing. It is in the doing so much without really knowing whether it's going to make a difference. I don't know. I'm not sure whether now, for example, we can say doing this added 2 days or added 1 day or added, you see, I don't know. It's all just a confusion of emotions. Yeah, but at the end of it all, he's not here.
Yeah.
You see, and also we always grapple with the question: did he know, the person that's gone? Did they know that you truly did your best? Did they know that you truly cared? Did you know that if you could, you would have taken this suffering away and so on? Yeah, like for me, we hadn't spoken. I had not gone visiting I had actually not gone visiting this year. I was there last year. So January and May, when he passed on, I had not actually seen him. So yeah, many things probably. But I also know that my going maybe would have just made him happy. His granddaughter is here and so on. But you see, I don't know what I could have done to take away the pain or whatever it is that he was going through. But in his final days, he just withdrew into himself and he would just be quiet. Yeah, he would just quietly sit under the tree. And like before, he had a phone. He would normally call. He loved fish. He would call and say he wants to eat fish, He wants, and of course you would send him pesa. He would know his balance. He would know how much money he has, how much money he has spent, and so on. So the grieving is just, I don't know.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's true. Many times we get into this. We really wish we can do something, or we ask ourselves those questions. Did they know how much I cared? Did they know I would have done anything for them?
Mm-hmm.
Did anything I do even help, really? But I would like to think, I don't know. The fact that I don't think it's really important whether we added the number of days or didn't add the number of days. I think what matters at the end of the day is that we cared, and at least we tried to show we cared in the best way. And yeah, it sounds to me also like your grandfather was probably also trying to come to terms with where he was at now, which I think many people don't understand. When somebody gets sick, especially a kind of disease that will change your body, or how you know yourself, it can be very difficult even for you to embrace that. And that's why many times even things that you as an outsider know is helpful to the other person, they can reject it because it's just like, what do you mean? I'm fine. Like, I don't need a wheelchair. What do you mean? I don't need, this or that. So yeah. Okay. Some people say that it's easier to let someone go when they've died at an old age. Yeah. Would you agree with this? I know he died like when he was pretty old. Do you think that makes it easier to accept?
It actually doesn't, surprisingly. It doesn't. It is, I think it is an expression that we just use because it's convenience, or it's convenient, or it's easy to say they had lived their life. But truly, the bonds we form, the ties we have, the importance of this a person to the people that matter to them, sometimes, unfortunately, can only be felt when they are not there. You know the way they say, you don't know what you have
till it's gone.
Yes, until it is gone. That is it. Because even just sitting with him under the tree and listening to his stories, as he would tell us the way they used to work on Wazungu farms, the way they used to be whipped by Wazungus and so on. I mean, when you're seated with them at that time, it feels like it's just a story. But you see, now they're not there anymore. If you went like to his home now, you would not have someone to make you laugh, to regale you with stories of what escapades everyone has been up to. Most of the times, people would assume that he doesn't know, but he actually knew everything that would go on in his home. So he would tell you, who you? Kama wewe iko na tongolo, that's what he would say. Weka, atachukua, yeah. Don't give this one your phone because they're going to take off with it. So it doesn't really matter with age. I want to imagine that it isn't, for example, more difficult losing a 1-year-old than losing a 90-year-old. I think loss is just loss.
Yes.
And we feel it in different ways. And sometimes we express it in different ways. And sometimes the intensity is also different given your interactions and you being with them.
That's true. Many times we try to compare like suffering or loss or whatever, which I think is, I mean, we should not, because you really can't compare suffering or loss. It's not, it's pointless. And you never know the bond somebody had or how much this thing meant or this person meant. And I think any suffering or any loss is relevant anyway. So anyway, I really think that saying that, at least they were old, it's like a sort of comfort we try to give ourselves, but it really doesn't make it any better. So over the past, let's say 1 year, since last year, you've lost some people successively, right? So we lost our uncle in May. Then in September, an uncle from our mom's side passed away, which I know you were also involved in. Then after that, I think your grandfather. Then a friend.
I lost my friend in August.
Exactly. How has all this been for you? Because it's like loss after loss, in short periods of time, actually.
In fact, one time, I think I was talking to Mami and I asked her.
Mami is my mom.
Oh, yeah. So I asked her, am I growing old? Or is it that I know too many people? Or is it that death has just decided, I think the death of people close to you, that just brings closer your own mortality. Because actually what it means is that even you
can die.
You can just go and it will be that. Yeah. And she told me it is because of the bonds we form, the ties we have, the networks we have. The bigger your circle, the bigger your network, the bigger the number, because most of the people who are dying, my friend or a friend of a friend, actually it is quite a number, but it is just maybe the 4 or 5 you have highlighted that had a direct bearing. So in May we lost our uncle, and that one was my friend from the days when I was in school. I remember when I was in choir, he used to buy me chips with my friends. Anytime I wanted a new hairstyle, new clothes. I remember even my, what is it called? Lever's bash. He bought me shoes and clothes and had my hair done. All my friends knew that time he was at Generations, opposite Kenya Cinema. So we would leave school and guys would say, we passed by your uncle so that we have chips. Even the workers knew us. So even when he wasn't there, they would say, huyu ni mtoto wa Tony. So they would ask, mnataka nini? And of course, we only just wanted chips and sausage, not even with chicken. So they would give us chips, the sausage, bilimbili. Then he would be billed when he comes. And also growing up, yes, he was older than me, but we grew up together because every holiday, we would be packed to Muhwea, our village.
Where is our village?
We would close school at 2. We would be Muhwea at 5. And we would leave Muhwea in the evening at 6 and go to school the following day. So basically all our holidays were in Muhwea. So we kind of grew up together. I think we are the older nieces and nephews saw them get whipped by their father. He was a tyrant. So he was my friend. We would talk as we grew older, as we got more responsibilities. The talking got fast-paced, but we talked. At least for him, I can say, Uncle Tony knew that I was his friend, and he knew that he was my friend. And I remember even when he died, actually, I never heard that he was sick. I had not. It's my brother who called me. Manuel called me, I think at 6 in the morning. I was still asleep. So when I picked, he asked, have you heard that your friend is dead? Then I asked, which friend? Uncle Tony. I was like, what? I screamed. I mean, was he sick? Was he killed? What happened? And that was last year. At that time, COVID had just come.
Confusion.
Yeah, there was lots of confusion. There was lots of stories. He has died of this. Oh, he had this. He had this. Even the ailments that were being told about. I mean, I had never ever heard that he had. I mean, Uncle Tony. Yeah. He was the kind of person who would, you need to do this. He always had a solution for everything. He, as far back as I can remember, he never looked like he ever was sick.
He didn't, yeah.
Yeah, he just went through life. And for me, Uncle Tony's death saddens me to death because it exposed us as a family. We are a very big family. And his death has made some of our relationships awkward with some members of the family, because during the funeral and even after the funeral, some of the people that I have always respected and that I would never ever answer back to, texting and asking, you said this, You say that, for example, you say that our brother died of COVID, like the one who carried out the test. And I'm like, oh, I also just said this has been the story all over, and it became a bit awkward for me because one of them actually said, I cannot have an exchange with you over text, and I'm sorry if my saying it hurt you, but it's not said in a malicious way. It's because, everyone will want to ask you, what happened? He was sick. Was it COVID? That is what people are saying. Did he have any underlying condition? We also just learned that he had some heart condition. Actually, up to date, I can tell you for a fact, Pauline, I don't know what killed Uncle Tony.
None of us do.
Yeah, I actually, it's like we decided it is going to be treated as private and confidential and so on. And again, that time, the way burials for COVID sufferers were being treated, COVID casualties, you arrive, you're put in the grave, and no viewing and so on. And it was quite difficult to process, but I think, like I told you, I just decided, let it be as it is. Let it just be. If tutakutana, tusalimiane, and it will be like that. We even had another death in the family, for which I only turned up on the burial day. Yeah, and I remained in the background and I went away. But truly, Uncle Tony was my friend. And sometimes I tell myself, I'm Uncle Tony. Actually, I still have his number here. I'm nipigia Uncle Tony nimuulize, then I have to remind myself, he actually died. And just like we have said about my grandfather, you can't say it was time, or it was expected, or it was anticipated. And it is unfortunate that he is not here for me to tell him, ilikuwa hivi ama ilikuwa hivo, But I think for him, I have made my peace with it. I don't know whether he also knew he was sick. I don't know whether he also thought that he was going to die, because I have not even had chance to talk to anyone that was close to him. Yeah, maybe in the last hours or days to his death, for them to say he was in pain, or he was fearful, or he was resigned, he was calm, and so on. Then the final one is my friend in August. He's just a young man who really, really was struggling in life. This guy was Ugandan, but he came to Kenya as an orphan. We all knew he was an orphan, only for him to die, and we discovered his parents were alive in Uganda. Yeah. So he was brought here. He grew up in some orphanage. He went to school here. So he actually just became friends with most of us in Bungoma. He was also a musician. And he really tried to make music. I remember it took us quite some time. He tried to put his music on YouTube. It took us quite some hard work. His first target was 100,000 subscribers. Then when we hit the 100,000 target, we said 200,000. But for us to get to 100, I remember sending links to his music to my friends. It got to a point where I used to tell people he's my cousin, because people were asking, who is he? We are Kenyans. Who is he? Why do you want me to subscribe? I'll tell people he's my cousin. So it just happens that he would talk to me about his music, his work and music. He was a trade journalist. At the point of his death, he was the personal assistant to the MP Kandui. Not personal assistant, but communications guy. And prior to that, he had been in Kimilili. So before he moved from Kimilili, he actually came and talked to me and told me, I've gotten an offer from Kandui. can I go to Kandui? And I encouraged him to move. I told him, they're giving you a good offer, they're giving you a good package, and now you're going to be in town, it will also work for your music. And actually, before he died, I think the 4 months before he died, he used to release a song every month. The night that he died, we were seated at some place in Bungoma, and he happened to be there. He actually came and we talked. We talked for about an hour. And he was just telling us, you people really know how to enjoy life. You people have soft life. Please put me in your soft life movement. And he kept telling me, Ambassador Soft Life. Even today, when I speak about him, I can actually see him walking out of, we were at a bar, I can actually see him walking out of the bar. And when he left, we were seated with one gentleman called Edgar. He actually told Edgar, utanisalimia tena. And Edgar told him, wewe hata COVID haiwezi kukuua. Hatuwezi, tutasalimiana bado, tutakutana inside, tutasalimiana. Then he left. Unfortunately, he went and he got killed. He was hacked to death. I don't know whether it was a robbery because his camera bag was taken away and his mobile phone. But I have kept saying, even if it was just a robbery, why didn't they just take the bag? Ndio anunue ingine so that they come for it. They didn't have to kill him. He died a very painful death. So we remained seated. Then I got to the house and was called to be told your friend has died. It has been very difficult for me to process that because sometimes I keep blaming myself. That night, I had to wait. I called my friend to drop me home and he told me he had gone, I don't know, for some rescue mission. I had to wait for 2 hours for him to come. Somehow, I couldn't get myself to get onto a border. I called 2 cabs. They were both out of town, but I waited and he came. So I have kept telling myself, maybe if I had asked, he used to be called Storm, his musical name Storm. Maybe if I had asked Storm to wait with me so that we drop him at home, probably he would still be alive. I don't know. Or we would have postponed his death. Then there were allegations that maybe it was political, maybe it was a hit for some reason. And that brought a lot of fear in me. Up to now, I still can't go home past 7. I can't. Once it gets dark, I must be taken home. I can go home, and when I get home, the very first days, I would put on all the lights in the house, including all the security lights, because it felt like if whoever killed him had followed him from the bar, then it could have been someone we were seated with, or he saw us together, and because we don't know the reasons, they may imagine maybe he told us something. It is all, it brought a lot of fear in me, and it has taken me a lot of time. One friend at that time told me, these people who die don't go far. So he told me, talk to your friend. Just tell your friend to release you, to give you courage so that you're able to face. I did that, but still, it's a big problem. He was such a young guy. All he was just struggling was to have some relevance in life. He just wanted to have something of himself, It's not that, even though he had that camera bag, he was not rich, he was not anything. Even if really he said anything that upset those people, si wangempiga too, so that we pay hospital bills thereafter. Yeah, instead of. So, yeah, those questions keep running, and it has been quite difficult, but one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Yeah.
The what ifs are usually, I think it's what makes us really sad and also makes us scared and all of that. It's just the what ifs. What is this? What is that? Just many unanswered questions, I think, is what causes a lot of sadness to people. Like, you wish you knew some of these things. Maybe it would make it easier. So all this time we've been dealing with a pandemic, has this affected your grieving in any way, positive or negative?
Yes, it has, because, like, for example, do I go to the very first from
You
last
can just
year?
collectively, you can do it
No,
collectively.
collectively, number one, we can't express our grief. We can't mourn the way we would want. You know, like in our setup, mostly, people will want to congregate. You sit together, you exchange. I mean, it's like a remembrance. It's like a tribute of sorts. So you exchange your different experiences with this person. Oh, I saw him on this date. We did this. Because of COVID, we are not able to. You know, you're limited, and you're only given a few hours. Once the body's out of the morgue, you're supposed to have the body buried. And apart from that, again, the social distancing and the timings. Like when my grandfather died, Kukadom, our paternal grandfather,
Yeah.
wanted to attend the burial, and he did. He came late. He got into the home when he was being buried, and that really upset him. He said this is his peer, and he is the only one of his Basakwa is what in English? His Basakwas. I mean, Basakwa is how two people whose children are married, they refer to each other. So he says this is his only Basakwa that they had actually sat and talked. And because my father is the firstborn, he was the first one they interacted with. So he really felt disappointed with that because he missed. He arrived late. He was not ready. He was not able to speak at the funeral. He was not able to give a tribute. Do you know we had to organize for him to come back later? Yes, he went. He said, I just want to go back and sit with my, now the living Basakwa, my female Basakwa, and properly pay tribute to my Basakwa. So we, of course, when my mother is going home, I have to go with her because she's diabetic. I also have to ensure that she's taking care of herself. That is another thing that has happened. COVID has kind of changed roles for me. I am now, even in my grieving, sometimes I have to postpone my grieving so that I take care of my parents, I take care of my mother and father, so that they don't expose themselves, so that they don't worsen their current health situation. Yeah. And also with social media, because we don't have the kawaida mourning and funeral process like it was. There's a lot going on social media. Like, Uncle Tony's death elicited a lot of social media talk and discussions and so on. And because you can never ever just be too careful. Sometimes you find you're being misquoted. Sometimes you find whatever you have said is being put out of context. And it has made relations very awkward for me. For example, I cannot just sit and just express myself and say, I want to cry or I want to mourn. Someone is going to take a video, the next minute, you're trending in Bungoma groups, You're going to say, oh, ABCD. Someone is going to report you. The next thing, I'm being summoned at home. You said this and that, so. But we take it in stride.
A day at a time.
Yeah.
What has been helping you cope during this time with all of this? If you have been coping in any way.
No, I have.
Anything goes, by the way. It's okay. We're just, honesty is key.
Yes, no. My friends, would like come close, get very close, and want to be with you. But I keep telling them they are a bad influence. So we were drinking quite a lot. Drinking quite a lot, and it has taken quite some time. I think I officially stopped about... Okay, I officially told myself I have to stop because it was also taking its toll on me. I don't take warm beer, I only take cold beers. And I don't know if it's my throat or my vocal cords, all of them just gave. I have had a bout of flu and being voiceless for more than 3 weeks. People were saying it's COVID, but it wasn't COVID. It's because of cold beer. Because we would drink every evening, every single evening, just to dull so that you don't, you see, like I've told you, so that I don't have to go through the fear. When I get home and I'm high, I don't have to process the fear. You get into the house and just get into bed and pass out.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning, you go to work. It gets to 4. You're already planning. Where are we going to? And it has taken... Actually, you're asking that question for me to realize that is what was happening. That is what was happening. And it has been tough, but okay, I have kept telling my friends you're a bad influence, but it's not that they're bad influence. We like try to help in whatever way we can, but we have different thresholds. So I think for me, it was getting to a point where it was almost going to become a problem. Because you see, even in the times when I didn't have a voice, I was not able to talk, I was on medication, I would just come from the doctor and go straight, where are we meeting? Yeah, I'm already seated. I already have my 2 Tusker lights. Ice cold. By the time I'm done with the first one, the second one has to come from the fridge because this one is warm. But my trying to escape dealing with this has taken a toll. That is why I'm even speaking with a croak now. Yeah, but I actually had to decide, let me just face this. Let me just face this. If it is the fear, let me just find a way of dealing with it and getting over it, even if it means moving houses. Yeah, so that life just goes on normally. Because, you can't outdrink EABL. Yeah.
You can try, but you can't.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. So, yeah, it has been the drinking. Yeah. It became a bit too much.
Okay.
Yeah, and just trying to have a good time. When in actual fact, you still have to deal with it in the morning. You still have to deal with the repercussions, and it is still there. It doesn't go away. Yeah. This person is already gone. You still have to deal with their not being there. You still have to deal with their grief. Still have to deal with your fear. You still have to deal with your what ifs, because you're not getting any answers from the things you're getting involved in.
Yeah.
And the way Mami always says, you people, you must know that your DNA has
alcoholics.
Yeah.
Alcoholism.
Yeah. So there's that danger of becoming an alcoholic. So you must always beware that ikipita hapa, I've crossed the line. So I think those constant reminders, much as we don't like them, when you're being reminded, when you're being reminded, you always feel like wanakukazia, you're misunderstood. But do you know they register? so that when you're almost crossing the line,
you remember.
Yeah, you remember.
Just comes to mind. You're like,
yeah, this is going to happen if I
Yeah.
don't like arrest this now. So for me, for that, I have dealt with it. It has been 1 week. But I know.
That's something to be proud of.
Yeah, it has been 1 week.
Yeah.
I have not gone looking. Even times when my friends have come and we're sitting together, they keep asking me and I tell them I'm on medication.
Yeah.
I'm not taking alcohol. Because the doctor actually asked me, what's the problem? He changed medication 4 times.
And the problem is still...
Yeah, and my voice was just still... Finally, I had to own up. I told him it's because I take cold beer, so... I have to stop.
Awareness is key. It's really easy to escape and find ways to escape whatever it is you're feeling. Unfortunately, or fortunately, eventually it catches up with you, no matter what.
Yes.
And I think it's better to deal with it head on when you're in control, as opposed to it coming and just, that thing they say, unapigwa na butwa.
Yeah.
It just comes and takes you by surprise 100%.
Yeah.
But awareness is key, and for as long as you're able to realize, like, hey, this is a problem.
Yeah.
That's your strength.
Yeah, mostly avoiding to be alone, because then when you're alone, you have to face your issues, your demons, you see. And just like we are always told, they are gone. You see, it is us who are alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, once you're dead, that is the end. So they are gone. Instead of killing yourself and self-destructing, because I'm sure they would also be very sad to know
that's what you're doing.
That is what is happening. You know, you're resorting to not just living your life, not just putting yourself to some gainful activities, and because what do? That is something you can do once a week or once in 2 weeks, just sitting and talking and drinking. But you see, when you start doing it every single day, when you wake up in the morning, you're already planning, where are we going this evening? Then it is a problem.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Is there anything you feel is giving you comfort, hope, or joy at the moment?
The painting with T-pad, I had taken it up. Then I went off during these times of confusion, but I have started doing it. I also have the other coloring book that I had not completed. And I don't know whether there's anything like this, but the Swahili say mwerevu hajinyoi, but sometimes I just try to psychoanalyze myself. I try to just sit with myself and talk to myself and find out, okay, what exactly is going on and what can I do? Of course, it may not be 100%, but for me, I somehow, sometimes I can actually pull myself out of it. Like, I can recognize I am doing this and it's going to be a problem unless I put a stop to it. So, like, for the drinking, that is what I have done. I just told myself I won't. So when my friends call me, I say I'm busy. Or I just tell them I'm not drinking. You people are being a bad influence on me. I'm not going to drink anymore. Dealing with, I don't know that it's dealing with absence or loss of these people. It is very difficult. Yes, death is there. And yes, every one of us will die. But for that, it is just a wait and see game. I mean, they are gone. They're not going to come back. So I just deal with emotions as they come. Sometimes some of this, the usual things we are told, read a book, listen to some music, yeah, I do that. But I think even this talking for me, that I had already told you, I think I don't know what will come out. I don't know how it will go, but I think I'm looking forward to it because it may also just help me deal with some of the things I'm facing. So sometimes when it feels like I'm really afraid and I can't go home, I go to my mother's house. I just call her and tell her I'm coming to spend the night at a place. So I go spend the night there. Then I go back to my place the following day. So one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Yes.
Oh, great. I think that's a good place to wrap up. Thank you so much, Nakhumicha, for sharing your story and your journey with us.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed having you on.
Thank you so much.
Sawa sawa.